I'm going to be reading one of my fan fictions, if I can find it. And that's pretty much all I gotta say. If it wants to load. Jesus. Alright, there we go. I'll go with one of them. And there we go. Alright. And I'm going to bring one chapter first, called The Beginning, and I'll go on from there. Alright. The fanfiction is called He's Too Old For Me. Or is he? I'd like to give credit to my friend Miyako-chan, a great role player as well. But she hasn't been on for a while. But she's probably got some problems at home, so, you know. Alright. It's a Harry Potter fanfiction. Alright. Sylvia had the attention of Professor Snape. Lovely. Well, I'll see you guys later, she said to her Slytherin friends, mainly Draco and Pansy. Sylvia knocked on the door. I'm here, Professor, Sylvia announced. She walked into the room and didn't see the professor. She spotted him in the corner messing with potion vials. What do you want me to do? She asked. Severus turned around and looked at Sylvia with disgust. Put the ingredients in alphabetical order and then tell me when you're done, he barked in a rough tone, and then turned back to his vials. He was checking to make sure everything was there, since recently students had started to take potions. It sickened him to have someone else in there, but he had to punish the annoying girl somehow. Sylvia looked at the professor. Was it really worth it? She asked herself. She had to admit the prank was funny. Alright, Professor, Sylvia said. She hated organizing things, being the unorganized person she was. It took about half an hour. There's so many potions. It wasn't technically A through Z, but rather A through L, since that's what the last potion started with. So I'm done. If I'm correct, Wolfsbane is the last potion. Severus looked back at the girl. So you do listen during class, he said sarcastically. And you know your alphabet too. What a surprise, he said, turning back to his oncoming work. Reaching down, he picked up a list of all the potions and ingredients he had. Severus handed it over to Sylvia. Now make sure every potion and ingredient is there. It seems a lot of things from all potions is gone, he added, and continued to work even though he was becoming more aware of Sylvia being right there. Sylvia smirked. Yes, I do listen. Yes, I know my alphabet, she said. She heard him say that some love potions were gone. Well, I do imagine that most girls would use that on their crushes. I'll get right to it, she added. She looked to make sure everything was there. You're missing some ash wand eggs. I think some of the girls stole it to make their own love potions. You're also missing some love potions, Professor. But everything else is there, she said. Professor, may I ask you 2 questions? Sylvia asked. That being the first question. The second one, that was something on her mind for a while. Severus sneered. I'm surprised at just how much students we have here. Idiots. He mumbled. He turned his black eyes on Sylvia. What? If it's anything stupid, I'll assign you more detentions. He's used to students asking for ingredients, but he rarely gave them out. Other than that, Severus had no idea what Sylvia could possibly want. Sylvia smiled. I find it weird that you don't know how desperate some are, Sylvia said. She stared at him with her blue eyes. Do you ever get lonely, Professor? Sylvia asked. She imagined it would be very lonely down there with only potion vials and ingredients and weird, creepy floating things in jars. She looked at one of the creepy things in jars that looked oddly like a brain. Severus stiffened and turned back to examining vials. No one had ever asked him such a personal question, so he was caught off guard. I don't see how that's relevant, Severus answered curtly. It doesn't really matter whether or not one is only. Rather trivial, really. I'm sorry, Professor. I just think that being down here without anybody else would be boring, depressing, and lonely, Sylvia said. She looked back at that thing in the jar. She really should have kept her mouth shut. She felt it was a little too personal. She wanted to poke the thing in the jar, but at the same time she didn't. What about you? Are you happy and crowded by adoring friends? The perfect little package, right? Severus didn't type. Popular, smart, funny, and completely fake. He didn't doubt that Sylvia was just like the rest of them. It's not that fun, really. I prefer to have a small group of friends I can trust with my secrets, Sylvia said. She hated being so popular, everyone wanting to be her friend. Being called a fake, she didn't mind being smart or funny. What bugged her the most is that she can't be mean to anyone. I'd rather not have my popularity, Sylvia said to the professor. I'm sure, Severus grumbled in a tone that said he obviously thought she was lying. Popularity sucks. You wish you were normal, and you're not as fake as everyone thinks. That about right? Severus had never met one genuine person who didn't want popularity. Everyone acted as they hated it, but he knew they loved the limelight. I'm serious. I hate being popular. If I could trade jobs with someone else, I would, Sylvia said. She detected that he thought she was lying. I'm not lying, Professor, Sylvia said. She knew no one would believe her, but she didn't care. She had to get it off her chest. Any reason why you're telling me this? I'm not a therapist. Severus was curious to why the girl was spilling her heart out to him. He was not one for sentimental feelings and was unused to having long conversations with students, especially one in detention. I'm sorry, Professor, Sylvia said. Maybe I should see a therapist, Sylvia said, actually smiling. At least it would save you the time that you could be spending it somewhere else, not listening to my problems, Sylvia said. Why didn't you just tell me to be quiet and take points like you usually do? She asked. Why was she pointing out her heart to a professor, for that matter? I'm not completely sure, Severus admitted, and turned to face Sylvia while leaning against the shelf. Maybe you just got so bothersome I knew this would work better than taking away house points. Obviously, I was wrong, he said with a slight shrug. Why had he given her detention instead? The question set in his mind uncomfortably. Sylvia stared deep into the professor's eyes. She finally broke the stare. What is up with me today? She asked herself. She shifted her stance. I guess you were, she said with a shrug. Sylvia, get a hold of yourself. Why are you having such a long conversation with a professor that isn't about your detention, she thought to herself. Severus shook his head, frowning at the girl. Sometimes you get too loud. Be a good little girl and sit down with your mouth closed. He was tired and was not sure why he was speaking to this girl at all. He had hardly talked to professors this much, let alone one of his more bothersome students. Sylvia stared at the professor and smiled. Sometimes I'll try to behave a bit more then, she said to the professor. He seemed tired. I would think he had a promotion for that, thought Sylvia. Sylvia had never talked this much with a teacher. She looked down and looked back up in the professor's eyes. And that's the first chapter. And I can't read worth a crap.